Trey Kennedy, welcome to SnobCast.
Thanks for having me, man. Good to be here.
Nice to have you on here. I've heard great things. When I told my friends I was interviewing you, they were like, holy shit, Vine is wild. And I was like, what the fuck is Vine?
Vine, that's it, man. Started it all. R.I.P. That's cool, man.
Yeah. No, I obviously know what Vine is. It's really awesome that you're coming here to the festival. You've got a show on the 29th of July,
Yes, sir.
headlining show. Tell us a bit about that before we dive into some deep topics over here.
Thanks, man. Yeah. Playing Club Soda, July 29th, TreyKennedy.com/tour for tickets. And yeah, I mean, it's just, I started on Vine, an app 10 years ago while I was in college, just goofing off. And now I'm coming up to JFL. Like, it doesn't make sense. It's surreal. So it's a show. It's my grow up comedy tour, doing that show, my second hour, and I'm excited about it. It's a little more vulnerable, a little more get to know me.
Okay.
I think I'm really finding my footing more and more as a stand-up and a live performer. So really excited about this second tour of mine. So yeah, come check it out. It's gonna be fun.
So this is a full-fledged stand-up comedy show. There's no sketches. There's no anything. It's comedy.
It is. It's a it's comedy show. I try to bring in some different elements because, people know me as a video guy. So there's you might see some video components, but it is, it's an hour of stand-up with some embellishments. So
amazing.
Yeah, it's what I hope is a real comedy show that I've worked really hard on. So
is this your first festival appearance?
First comedy festival.
Wow.
So I know that I kind of got that first tour, just trying to get the feel for all the live stuff, and now my team got me hooked up at JFL. I can't believe it. So I'm super excited to get that experience, and as kind of being the internet comedian, coming to something like that, and hopefully meeting a lot of cool people and getting that experience is like, I'm just like honored. So pumped.
And a dude from Oklahoma. That's pretty.
Yeah, man. Where are you from?
I'm in Montreal.
You are from Montreal. Yeah, I'm from Oklahoma, man. Stand-ups coming out of Oklahoma. So
did you grow up in a small town?
Relatively, about like 75,000 people.
Oh shit! All right.
Yeah. Compared to you, yeah, for sure. So it's funny because it's like a big town in Oklahoma. I know I have dozens of friends who grew up in like a town of 2,000 people, but
oh wow,
yeah. So, but I grew up in a pretty small town, church every Sunday, the classic like Southern United States experience. And but my very funny family. Dad's funny guy.
That's what I was getting at.
Yeah. Sense of humor is a big thing, but very churchy, clean sense of humor. So I think I naturally just do more clean stuff. That's what I was born and raised doing. And it's funny, you'd see my material and think I was squeaky clean, and my mother would be like, there's a few things in there we need to talk about. There's a little much, so but yeah, man, now I've been doing it long enough. My dad, I think he literally wants to like retire from his actual work and maybe pursue stand-up. I mean, he's like living vicariously through me. I'm like, all right, Dad. But yeah, it's been great. I was just making videos for fun, and it's just turned into all this. It's wild.
So let's go back. Let's talk about that first time you picked up your device and you posted a video on Vine. So we're gonna go from there to the point where now you're doing stand-up, and the differentiation, because that's what people have issues with now, is that anyone feels like they can get popular online, but then they're like, oh, I'm gonna do this, but I'm gonna become a stand-up comic. But you're not a funny stand-up comic. You know what I mean? They can't differentiate one or the other, and people get frustrated with that. And I mean, so tell me a bit about how your like the road to stand-up comedy came about by doing all that.
Yeah, it was Vine.
Yeah.
I was goofing off in college as like a 19-year-old and just kind of like nowadays it's so hard to grow on social media. It's so
Yeah.
rare to pop, but back then it's just like I really think if you were just kind of trying, you could easily get some following. But I had a few vines pop and truly a deal where I got 1 million followers in like a month. Like it was just like,
That's
okay, well,
wild.
but it was the Wild West where I didn't
Mhm.
make a dollar from it. It was just like cool. I have this
What do I do with
and
this now? Yeah.
yeah, I was in
Yeah.
college. I was fully set on like I'm getting my business degree. I'll go get a corporate job and like this will be a cool story one day, I guess. But it social media, as we know, just grew and grew. And I was like graduating college as Vine was shutting down, as Instagram was releasing video, as that shift was happening. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try to make videos and try to make a living. So then entered the few years phase of like building a following. Be, influencer becomes a thing. Now I'm making a living making videos. Like, okay, cool. This is crazy. And then that's growing enough where now I'm getting calls from my manager saying this agent wants to sign you. They want you to go on tour, blah blah blah. And I
Wow.
was like, and do what? I've never and like with a lot of they're in the business of making money. They're like, just put together a show. You could like a s- do a character live and like a Q&A. And it's just like that
That
sounds
sounds horrible.
horrible. Like that it's just so I was like, let me really try this. Give me a year to really see if I can put together a show, whether it's stand up, whether just something I'm proud of that I'm excited to do. So I did. Um, I live in Kansas City now, just up the
Okay.
road from where I was raised in Oklahoma, and my agents just put me spots on shows coming through Kansas City, and um, it was just kind of doing my thing, trying to figure it out. Had some bad nights, had some good nights, and long story short, that was like 4 years ago, and I've been able to just kind of been doing stand up ever since, and really just my whole career's just been like trying things. I've tried a lot of things that didn't work, and it feels like this is we're getting to go around the country, and I'm having a blast doing it. So
That's amazing. And for me, it's like, this like it's almost like I kind of lost my train of thought there, but you said something earlier that you were doing comedy, like, so comedy clubs, did you do open mics, or were you just put on, someone was like, hey, I'm headlining a show, open up for me type situation?
right, yeah, Kansas City doesn't even really have open mics, right?
Okay.
I mean, there's no comedy scene. So that's kind of I guess I got lucky in hindsight of this weird combination of
Hmm.
like I have a following. No one's in this town's like trying to be a comedian really. There's probably three of us. And so, this professional comedian is coming to do a show at the club this weekend. Can I hop on your show? And a lot of them, most of them, they never at that point, they even heard of me. Like, whatever, they'd let
Hmm.
any local weirdo on the stage. And so, yeah, and that way I was able to very quickly just get some consistent like 10-minute spots,
Okay.
which was really cool. So
And were you
my first
writing? Oh, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just saying I just popped in my head. My first ever stand-up set
Yeah.
was a guest spot on Taylor Tomlinson was headlining,
Oh,
which is wild. And this is when she could only sell like, 30 tickets, which is
right.
wild because now
What year was
she's
this, more or less?
2019.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was she actually came in late and bailed and left quick early. So I actually didn't meet her that night. I've met her since, but yeah, that's just wild to think about. She's now who she is, but that was cool because I remember seeing her and just being like, okay, how do I there's a big difference between me and her that night. So
So
trying to figure it out.
before you did that first show, did you write down your set, or are you gonna freestyle that thing?
No, I was to this day, it's the most I'll ever prepare for any stand-up set in my entire life. I mean,
Wow.
I poured over this 10 minutes. I'm a very shy person at my course. It's like, it's kind of blows my mind I'm in this line of work because I wouldn't know part of 10 minutes. And I remember finally after just spending so much time on this 10 minutes, I go, if this is not the least bit funny, then I will never do this again. Cause I think I just don't even know. And I always say I underestimated my ability to be funny. Like what I was saying, it didn't bomb. Like you could tell there was moments, but really underestimated what it is like to just be a stand-up alone on a stage with a microphone. That's what I was like, this is the part that you got to master. So, um,
It's scary as shit.
just take all the time and yeah, yeah. I mean, when you just when you've like this, is how I'm gonna I was like, you're more confident on stage than I am like having a conversation with like a like how do I get that confidence? So
Mhm.
that's a journey and just it takes time as as anyone knows. So I feel like I'm figuring out my voice and style on stage and it's love.
That's lovely. Are there any stand-up comics that you're really close with that you're able to like text or reach out to be like, hey, I need advice on this or I need help with this joke?
The he are you familiar with him?
It's sorry, it cut out.
You're good, good. Are you familiar with John Christ?
The name sounds familiar.
Yeah, yeah. He's been doing it for years. He's crushing it all over the country. But we had first connected. He would been doing stand up for a long time, and then through social media, kind of popped and started touring. And we we would get mistaken a lot because we look similar, and we were making videos. So we kind of connected just because of that. We're like, I guess we look alike. And he went on to do this big tour, and I was just hitting this phase of like they're telling me I should do this too, but you've been doing stand for 10 years. I don't know. And he made an effort to kind of mentor me a little bit and help me just the very basics of like he'd bring me out to a show and I do a set and it was like in a theater and I was like talking to someone in the first few rows. He's like, "Hey, the people in the back, they can't hear what she's saying." So you have
Right.
to, just 101 like
Repeat it, you know? Yeah.
yeah, and just all sorts of things like that, and just how to like work the stage better in different rooms and bouncing ideas off of and all that good stuff. He was super helpful, and now I'm my openers are hilarious dudes. We're obviously bouncing ideas off each other, and I've gotten to slowly meet other comedians, and that's why I'm pumped to come to JFL too to meet hopefully a ton more. But
Oh, for
he's really the
sure.
guy that helped me.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like it's always important to have that person you can turn to. Like even for me, we all have those people that we're like, I need your honest fucking opinion. Like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
even my wife who she has a great sense of humor, but I appreciate her so much because she like I'll tease her. She'll give me an honest opinion. She'll be like, "That's not," and then I'll be offended. I'm like,
Yeah,
"What?
like
Okay, well, don't be that honest."
why
Like
are you
that's
married to me? Yeah,
yeah,
Sure.
okay. Um, so yeah, I honestly sometimes think like I think she's more important than I realize because like she's not a professional comedian, but it's like, well, she's pretty aware and pretty funny, and she really gives it to me straight, and so I think she's a super big help too, for
Shout
sure.
out to your wife.
Shout out, she's the best.
Before we go, I want to ask something that I don't usually ask because I feel like it's cliche, but I feel like I have a very good, you have a very good energy to you, and you're very humble.
Thank you, my guy.
Um, what is some advice you can give to those comics that, or not comics, those social media influencers that want to make it big, maybe want to make that transition to stand-up comedy? What can we? What the hell?
Yeah, man. I know, right? It's like I know it's like I'm giving advice. It's like advice and not advice. I'm not ever giving advice on how to be funny, be successful. I don't know. I feel like I'm lucky. I'm trying to figure it out. But the only thing that I've done that that I could stand by and I'm proud of is just like just trying it and just like I'll never when I just had something in me. I was like, I gotta try stand up. So much of me was like, that's the scariest thing I've ever. If you could have told me my whole life, worst fear, public speaking, worst fear, like I was just like, I gotta do it. I gotta do it. I went up there and did it, got through it, whatever. And it just I was, and as you know, there's this whole kind of culture in stand up of like, man, you can't. It takes a decade minimum to be
Yeah,
even decent at this. That
to
or a
perfect
lot of
it.
that,
Yeah,
and obviously, if you do something for a decade, you're going to be better at it than you were 10 years ago.
right.
But I don't know. I think it's this weird battle, and only you really know. But when if you're going from social media to stand up, when do you start really trying to sell tickets? When you're a year in, 3 years, 10 years? I mean, maybe that's for you to decide, but I'm more like, man, I just think you got to go for it. And if you try to sell tickets a year in, and you're going to learn pretty quick. If you go on sale again and they don't sell, you're like, well, okay, we got to go back to the drawing board. And
Yeah,
I think there should maybe be a little more. If you're wanting to do it, just go for it, man, because you're going to learn at some point if there's an audience for you or not. But that's my only advice: get out your comfort zone and go for it, because you never know. You never know.
and these are also answers you find out by going by the highs and lows of this
Yeah.
entire journey, right? So
Yeah, I just ran into this influencer comedian girl. She's so funny, and she has a big following. And she's like, I'm doing stand up, but I'm gonna wait years and years. I was like, do one show and sell tickets and say,
see how it
hey
does.
guys,
Yeah,
this is my first one.
yeah,
And if you're legitimately funny naturally to some degree, and your fans like you, I bet they're not gonna boo you out of the place, and you're gonna learn something.
exactly.
And so I think there's a big stigma from my world of social media, where there's the fear of like, we're going to encroach on the traditional world and just get
Right.
run out of there. But I think you got to go for it, and you're going to figure it out as long as you keep trying, if you're
It's been
stuck or not. So
this conversation has been a real pleasure. Please go see Trey Kennedy at Club Soda, January. What the hell? July 29th.
by 29. Yeah,
Do
you're
you
good,
want
man.
to plug anything else? This is your time.
That's it, man. Yeah, we're coming. It's just so surreal. I'm so pumped to meet people. You going to be around that weekend?
I will be there the
Love
entire
it.
week. Yeah.
Love it. Oh yeah, hoping we can connect, man. I just can't wait to meet a bunch of cool people, and come hang July 29th. Also be in Toronto July 27th. I'm coming up to Canada, baby. So TreyKennedy.com, and come say hey on social media, and see y'all in Canada.
Trey, you've been fantastic. Thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to meeting you at the festival.
You too, bro. Thanks for having me.
Peace.
Means a lot.
Bye. For the next 15 minutes, you're here on SnobCast. Welcome back, Bruce.
Everybody.
How you doing? Are you stressing out yet?
Great.
Are you stressing out?
No, I always stress out a little bit, probably more this time of year, this part of the month, because so much is still to be done to make sure everything. And then at a certain point, you run out of being able to overthink things, and you just got to roll,
Yeah. Well, you got a killer team like every other
Thank
year.
Thank you. I agree.
And
thank you.
I really appreciate you taking the time to talk about something very special that's happening in the comedy world. I'd like your input as the president of Just for Laughs, the biggest comedy festival in the world. There's a big thing happening now where social media, let's say influencers or personalities, are transitioning to want to maybe take on the stand-up comedy scene. And some people just can't differentiate how the hell some of these people are successful and how stand-up comics are not successful. And I just spoke with Trey Kennedy before talking to you, and he was so nice and so humble, and he gave me his side of the story, which was Vine, which started it all for him, and now he's kicking off and doing stand-up. What is it through your eyes that you've seen throughout the years, this differentiation or transition from social media personality to stand-up comedy phenomenon?
Well, look, here's the thing. When I first started, there was probably 5 people that were the gatekeepers of your career, which was really, really limiting.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it had a great effect on comedy. I think they were great at picking some people out of the thick of things and helping them become huge stars, all of which, all the famous comics of that era. I started in the late 80s, early 90s, and and it was really limited. And if you screwed up or someone didn't like you,
you just got axed. Yeah, you got axed.
Yeah. You survived-ish on the comedy club circuit, but you weren't going to get cast in anything. You weren't going to do a late night TV show. So it's really difficult. What's I think great about the current situation is that you can become a huge star and make a lot of money without any gatekeepers. I mean, obviously you have to play ball with some platforms,
For sure.
but you know, you don't have to get approval from them. You don't have to get picked.
Yeah.
You can go out there and create content that you believe is funny, that is going to connect to an audience, and then be really smart about building your audience. And then if you have an ambition to go out and do something live, if you're not inherently a stand-up, you're a creator.
Right.
If you have the wherewithal and the ambition, you can create a live act and go on around the world in some cases and make millions upon millions of dollars, largely marketing directly to the client. Pretty special, you know. And I think that, you know, we could say easily that some of these comics don't need Just for Laughs. They can go on and do that, but they would limit their potential if they did that. You know,
Okay.
why does Trey want to be here? I think Trey wants to be seen as a stand-up amongst the best in class, right?
Right.
And he deserves to be there, right? Just because his path was different and faster, you know, he shouldn't be penalized for that.
Mm-hmm.
Our programming team isn't going to penalize you for that. If you're funny and you have an audience, we're going to invite you. And, you know, that's why we include comics from all corners of the globe. You know, our priority, even though some people bitch about it, is making sure Canada is presented correctly because and properly, because we're the biggest producer of comics in the world as Canadians.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to do everything in the world to make sure that we do right by the Canadian comedy scene. But our goal is to be the Olympics. Even though we have a home team, I want every team to be able to come here and play and you know, connect with others. And, you know, someone that has a huge following, you know, like a Trey. So what I think is really important is that comedians are going to benefit from this space and all spaces to connect with other comedians, because sometimes the best connection is a peer and not a network executive or someone at Netflix or Amazon. It might just be another comedian that you partner with on a series, on a tour. You never know. So I think that's also very important. Peers meeting peers, but also, you know, when you're at the festival with the industry that attends from all over the world, but primarily for Toronto and Hollywood, you never know who's going to walk into a room and watch you. And even if you are a multimillionaire with an amazing career online, maybe the thing you want most is, is going to be delivered by an executive sitting in a room that you've never thought about. And I think it's really important to tell the comics and, in this space that we can help you expand your world, you know, and we can also, I think, gain from their audiences, because there are two reasons that, you know, there are a number of reasons why we want to be a big part of this space. One, because we want to present the best in class. Mm-hmm. Okay. Two, they're going to help us. When they talk about their experience in Montreal to their followers, which they will do, we have a much bigger, we increase the exposure to the event beyond the traditional ways and beyond our, social media followers.
Yeah, beyond traditional marketing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I will say that, this has been important to our team, and, Robin Kaiser that runs the Canadian events in Montreal in specifically, but also, Howie Mandel, that's an owner. Yeah. Howie has been on us from the day that he acquired a piece of JFL to say, guys, I shouldn't say guys, let's start again. Hey, I want to see this world presented at JFL. So let's go out and make sure they feel well. Let's sure we create a platform for my team. I think you're seeing a huge transition to have a huge piece of, to offer a great deal of exposure to this space, but also any new space that shows up and is great and helps us evolve and helps us remain in this position of, the Olympics of comedy.
So the Olympics of comedy is the perfect way to describe JFL. I mean, the other thing too is you notice in the lineup that a lot of the comics, there's more than one of these comics that are making the transition and the jump to stand up. You know, you have the guys from Please Don't Destroy, amongst other comics and creators that will be there at the festival.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we've got Curtis Connor, Noel Miller as
yes,
well. You know, Hannah Turner. There's a lot of great talent coming to the festival here, and also a Quebecer that sold out the Bell Center last year, Madoff, who's got huge amount of
oh
followers,
yes,
and because of that, connected to Howie during the pandemic, and those two became fast friends because Howie was so impressed with, you know, the audience that he draws online. They pulled a prank on Howie. They all showed up on one of his live streams
oh
and then just disappeared. And he was like, "What? I have 20, I don't remember the number, but it was a large number, and then
right,
they're gone." And it was Madoff pulling a prank on how he was like, but he couldn't believe that this Quebec artist he had never heard of had the ability to pull this prank on him in the numbers that he produced that came in. It was very, very funny. And now they're, they're friends. And you know, when we get Howie back to the festival, he's not coming this year, but I'm sure he'll be here next year. I'm sure they'll be up to working together, and I think that's awesome.
yeah, that's fantastic. So like the festival is really like emerging and not emerging, but growing into this comedy festival, but more than a comedy festival. You know what I mean? And like everyone knows the festival. If you don't know the festival, you're living under a rock. You know what I mean? It's
yeah, but you know what? We also are humble enough sometimes, that is, to know that there is an audience that doesn't know about us.
right.
And therefore, if we can invite the best in class to our festival, we're going to bring their audiences to a degree with them online, but maybe even ticketed and time. And maybe, you know, someone from, I don't know, Trey's home state of Oklahoma
Yeah.
saying, "I want to fly to Montreal one year because that sounds awesome.
Yeah,
I'd like to go to the Olympics of comedy," you know?
for sure. And it's always an honor to speak to you, and you're such a great guy. I really would like to know what your favorite part of the festival is. Like what do you get most, aside from the basics of like you want to see your friends, you want to do these things, but like what's that one thing that you get really psyched for before or
You know
after?
what? I love seeing acts that I know are going to kill, especially if they've never performed here before.
Oh,
And audiences are excited about. Look, it's also too, it's fun to sit backstage and watch John Mulaney walk out at Place des Arts and a place to go nuts, or Chappelle or Kevin.
yeah,
Or there's a British act that I know is going to do something so original and probably going to go well. He or she deserves to go well, but you never know. I'm so curious because they're so inventive. I want to sit in the room and see what the audience, how they respond to that person. It's just really sitting, to be quite honest, it's wanting to go and enjoy, you know, greatness with the fans in the city. And sometimes, you know, it's not only greatness, but it's watching someone super original, you know, try to, make their premiere at the festival.
so you love to observe, you love being in the room and just
Yeah. And I love seeing everyone, and I'm so proud of what the team has done, and go and see what, all the shows that we put up, but also to go backstage and say hi to people I don't know, to famous people I don't know, to
right.
friends that have done the event 10 times, because they're all buddies. I can't wait to see so many of them. Ronnie Chang, Tom Papa, Judy Gold, Alonzo.
Alonzo, great guy.
Buddies for a long time.
Yeah.
Buddies for a long time. I can't wait to see him.
Bruce, thank you for taking the time. You're so busy. I appreciate this. I will see you either at concerts, or I will definitely see you at the festival.